I'm struggling. I regret everything. Hi, Professor. Had a crazy weekend. Ended up in the ER. Some negative reaction to some new medicine they gave me. Yeah, it was just scary. That's all it was. Oh no, I was there. Thankfully, I was there for like 6 hours. So it was fun. It was fun. I hate needles, and they had to take blood out of me too, and I was like, yeah. Nothing. It was nothing bad. It was just a negative reaction to the medicine. So.
Anybody else? Any other? I'm just thankful that my own came together.
Already, thanks to that whole ordeal, I missed an assignment that I got to turn in. Hopefully. And then on Monday, I didn't get one. That was the problem. I have the summary, but it has a lot of personal data. So like I could show them that last resort. Like, well, say I'll talk to them, there's no problem. And then yesterday, since they gave me antibiotics, I was sleeping most of the day. I missed my class too, and I was like,
maybe there's a way you can like black out most of it. You know what I'm saying? Like show that you were there.
yeah.
If they want that communication.
Yeah, if necessary, there's no problem.
You ever look into whether there's like a ebook version? Yeah, I'm terrible at ebooks. I don't know what it is. I have quite the collection. Okay. My Kindle is full. Oh, okay. But if I have to, if I need to reach for a book, I never will.
Have you considered a rolling back?
Yes, I used to have a rolling back. And then I check other people with it.
There's also a hiking assisted backpack. Basically, it helps you suspend the backpack.
Yeah, invisible things.
Yeah, I recommend them too. Well, the good thing about that one is like it also removes some of the impact from the bouncing of the backpack. Since it has like rails and everything on the back. It's really cool. It's really comfy. Oh, I didn't know that. If it all fails, just get a suitcase. Nobody can do
reading from Gardner as well as Brown chapter 5 and there's the discussion board, kind of a quiz or a final session. Use that for discussion with something associated with it. All of that and then your third journal entry in the self-directed language learning project. And don't forget, that is a really ongoing project. That's basically your term project, your big final project, but it goes for 8 weeks and it's broken down into chunks, which I find makes it much more manageable than getting to the end of the semester and having a big project. It's when you're just working on a lesson on throughout the course of the semester. So make sure that you're submitting those entries every week because for each day that they're submitted, like they use 10% of possible doing. So it's five points per journal entry, but for every day that it's late, you have a set spot. So that doesn't sound like a lot, but it adds up if you're just habitually submitting it. So try not to do that. And before I get into the topic for this week, you did for your asynchronous online assignment for last week on audio lingual method, watched this demonstration video of audio lingual and made a lot of comments on it. And I thought it might just be nice to kind of wrap that up by asking you, what do you think were or are some of the advantages and disadvantages of that method? Why was it useful for our time, or could it still be useful? And why does it make fun out of it? A lot of you posted things about that, but I wanted to sort of reflect on it a little bit together. What's good about ALM and what's not so good? Right. Right. Yeah. 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 So, right. Those are all really good sort of key points. The first one being, you know, for in classes where you may have multiple first languages and one that the instructor can't speak, any of these methods like direct method or audiolingual method that does not include the use of L1, does not employ any amount of translation, can be the appropriate way to go. The sort of use of a lot of repetition can be really helpful, particularly at first, because it gives students a lot of initial words and phrases to begin using at the very beginning of their language learning journey. And utilizing a lot of images, no matter what method that we favor amongst those that we'll look at this semester, images are always helpful for students at almost every level of language learning, almost every proficiency level. And part of that is because of this idea of direct meaning. So if we're not utilizing students' first language, we're not translating words backpack to whatever the word for backpack is in their first language, back and forth, just having the picture of a backpack gives us direct meaning, right? It gives us immediate understanding of the meaning of new words. Other advantages or things that you thought were valuable about the audio lingual method. Yeah, Valentina. And that's how I learned course, the only thing I did not like is probably just me, but I would like to have something to be on. They were just repeating what the teacher was saying instead of looking at the paper. So I would rather have paper and be on. So this is a good point. The audiolingual method really, really emphasizes listening and speaking as the primary skill. And that's really helpful if that's your primary goal for learning to use this language is in terms of listening and speaking. But as you mentioned, for some learners, being able to see the work written and utilizing those reading skills can be a piece that's missing with audiolingual method. What are some other potential disadvantages of audiolingual method? Yeah. Yeah. Good question. So that video probably shows a kind of pure form. They were showing a lot of the really specific drills and strategies that are used in an audiolingual classroom. But there are a lot of language teachers who might use parts of audiolingual methods, some of those techniques, and an emphasis on cue and response. When I say this, you repeat this, or you respond this way. Without necessarily only ever using things that fall within audio. So some teachers may take pieces of it without necessarily using all of the parts of it and only the parts of it. Does that answer your question? More or less. Okay. Why do you think this is a method that is still very popular in many parts of the world where English language or I mean it can be used to teach other languages as well, but where English is not used a lot, right? This is a method that can be used quite a bit in settings where there's almost no native speakers of English. But it has fallen out of favor as some of its deficiencies, the ways in which it didn't serve students very well, became more clear. What do you think some of those might be? If you were taking that lesson, how do you assess for how they understand? And then as far as like, if I were to you, I'm going to put like that, and someone said something completely out of context, how many phrases in order to well, like assess what that perspective then respond. But it's not like how you problem solve for yourself. Right. Right. So two things in what you said, Star. One, it would be hard to assess students' comprehension, right? That we can see that they're able to memorize the dialogue, perhaps, and maybe switch out pieces of that dialogue for others. So switching out the location of where you're going, switching out the subject of the sentence, he, I, etc. But do we know that they understand what they're saying? And by memorizing a lot of these dialogues and even switching pieces out, the students in that video would be very well prepared to have a very specific experience where they talk about going to the library and what kind of book are you looking for, and this very specific conversation. But the moment that one of them needs to go to the bank or visit the doctor or do almost anything else, would they have the tools to use English in those circumstances? Maybe prepared for that. Maybe you're saying no, why not?
I think because of the way the teachers teaching them the grammar and vocabulary won't be correct, and like they was not really know how to say what's wrong with them. Yeah.
Right, and so they
the hope or the idea with iolingual method was we don't need to teach grammar construction. We just use a variety of phrases over and over again, and students will sort of internalize the pattern. They'll start to use the same kinds of patterns in the things they want to say, without us needing to tell them subject, verb, plus subject plus be verb plus ing, to, location, etc. They wouldn't teach them all that. They would just assume if you give them practice with enough kinds of phrases and dialogue, they will internalize these patterns and be able to use them. It often didn't work out like that was the problem. That, again, this idea that students would be prepared for only the situations that they had practiced in these dialogues, and not for what we call novel utterances, or novel meaning new, and utterance, something you say or write. So if they needed to go to the library with a friend and chitty chat about what kind of book they're looking for, they'd be well prepared for that. But if they want to say something different that they didn't practice in a dialogue, they're not well prepared for that. Yes. What is it? And then it's something to say, oh, question.
I got a solution for that.
Okay.
So when I was learning Japanese, the first thing I learned is I don't know. So when the teacher would ask me a question, I was struggling with it, I would say, I don't know. And he would be like, I'm glad that you're trying. And I'm glad that you know how to say I don't know what this. So when I came here and I started working at the welcome desk, I had some Japanese exchange students. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll talk to them and see what happens. So I asked the basic questions like, how are you? What are you studying? And stuff like that. And they answered. And when they start talking to me, and I'm like, oh wait, that's not my script, but I'm prepared. So I don't know. And then I also knew how to say my language level is tourist. Now, what they replied to me was fascinating because they said that I had a really great pronunciation at the time that I was a native. And I was like, oh man, I don't know what you're saying, but okay.
That is very cool. And so to this point, ALM, iolingual method, is useful for those very, very basic things. Yes, we do need basic phrases, greetings, questions that are going to be commonly needed, these kinds of things, but it doesn't get us very far beyond like the tourist level. And so it's not without use. It is useful in these very early stages of faculty, where just memorizing the basic words and phrases and how to sort of switch out some parts of them useful. Much beyond the very basic level, it gives the capacity to develop their really to have what we call competence. That's something we'll get into as the semester goes on, but ultimately communicative competence or the ability to use language to communicate meaningfully, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, not just verbal, but all four skills, able to use a language to meaningfully communicate what we want to communicate in that language. That's ultimately our goal with language learning. ALM didn't get us through. So we can sort of set that method aside for the moment for week 6. But we will continue. This week we've kind of stepped away from our look at some of these specific methodologies, grammar translation, direct method, auto-link method. We're getting into more of that, but we'll look a little bit at some of these individual factors in language learning. So chapter 5 in Brown is about what kind of makes one individual learner different from another. And it covered so much on learning styles as well as learning strategies. We won't have time to review it all in class today. But we will cover some of the kind of main themes as well as how they relate to Gartner's theory of multiple intelligences. because they relate closely to the idea of individual differences and strengths. So, how do you define intelligence? What does it mean when we say that someone is intelligent? Smart? What do you mean by that? Okay. About what kinds of things? Meaning like they know a lot of facts.
That's cheating, come on.
So they know a lot of facts. If they're in a class and the teacher asks a question, they would know the answers to a lot of them. Okay. How else might any of you define intelligence? Can you put that in?
I think it would be like more knowledge of how depends on what subject they're learning. They will maybe if they're interested in the language, they have more of that knowledge about it.
So sometimes intelligence is based on their interest in a
Yeah.
particular content area, maybe particular subject. Sorry.
I think they're very basic, and because mentioned the fire. Because of the company about Gardner, the thing that is more use that I really feel like it's what your capacity is for teaching the and overall, sort of like
Okay, so your capacity for taking in information, which might come from, a variety of modalities. Okay, Mandy, you were gonna say.
Experience.
Okay.
Kind of to piggyback on Mandy, it depends on the field person, the more experience they have, the more intelligent they're, and the ability to respond. So like, rather than, we could ask anyone a question. Some people would take 5 minutes to answer the question. Some people can answer it in 1 second. Or like, for example, with math, someone's doing a math problem taking 10 minutes, where my brother could do it in 10 seconds. Because he's a math major.
So you said two things, that some intelligence is sometimes rooted in the kinds of experiences that you had, and therefore how they shaped you or prepared you. And then also how you respond to things. That sometimes a person is more efficient in being able to respond to a particular kind of question. Maybe it's a math problem. They have a high degree of math intelligence if they're very efficient and able to answer them. Good. I think that those are all appropriate responses to the question of how you define intelligence. The classical view, how we for a long time have thought about intelligence, has been defined mainly in the ability to answer items on tests of intelligence. So testing like IQ tests, intelligence quotient tests, or the SAT. The idea has been that if we can answer a lot of items on a test correctly, that tells us that that's because we have some kind of underlying ability, some kind of underlying intelligence that allows us to answer items on tests well. That's in the classical approach.
So with adaptability.
What do you think?
So
Why?
because sometimes people tend to adapt fast to certain scenarios or work environments. They adapt quickly.
I think that that expression of what you just talked about being able to adapt to sort of new situations or new information well would not have been included in the classical. So the classical view of intelligence would basically say intelligence is almost sort of fixed, like you're born with it at a certain level of intelligence, and that becomes expressed in your ability to answer items on a test of intelligence that measure sort of logic and knowledge of sort of discrete facts. I have a lot of information that I can recall in my brain. However, Gardner defined intelligence very differently, and one of those ways might have been more like what you were just saying, adaptability. How would you, based on on what you read about by Howard Gardner, how would you say that he defines himself?
That the parts of a whole
Okay.
and some parts one another so that like that which is
Tool. I like that. Gardner talked about sort of a capacity to process a certain kind of information that would be founded on your biology and your psychology. So an ability to sort of, again, process or work through information, and that it entails the ability to solve problems or fashion products. And that's where I kind of hear what you're saying in terms of tools. That intelligence and adaptability. That intelligence has a lot more to do with problem solving and creating, right? So, and I think that's meant by fashioning products, creating something. And not only this ability to solve problems or create things which are new, but to locate the appropriate route to that goal. So this idea that there are problems, and there's probably more than one way to solve that problem, and that a person's intelligence can have to do with their ability to find the best route to solving the problem or creating the product amongst the many sort of multiple options. All the different ways that we can try to solve a problem, all the different ways that we can try to create a product. Gardner would say our ability to do those things and choose the best way to do those things, that's intelligence. Which was very different from the sort of classical view that you have this underlying fixed ability to respond to questions on a test. And that would tell us if you are intelligent or not, kind of a yes or no question. Gardner identified 8 different intelligences. Linguistic or related to language, logical or mathematical, and these 2 were the ones that really sort of the classical view was only interested in. The rest of these, the other 6, was not one that classical view of intelligence paid any attention to. But he said that people can have an intelligence which is related to music, which is related to space and their sort of understanding of themselves within a physical environment. Intelligence rooted in the body or kinesthetic intelligence, naturalist intelligence, or their sort of how in tune they are with the natural world. Interpersonal intelligence, so their ability to sort of communicate and be attuned to what's happening with other people. And then intrapersonal intelligence, sort of their self-understanding and awareness of themselves. And this infographic that shows all of them actually adds a 9th intelligence, which is existential. It's the tackling the questions about why we live and why we die. Or this sort of why are we here in the world? What is sort of meaning for we will. I have a short, like 6-minute YouTube video that I'll have us watch. It's TESL free for you, but I think it's useful for our purposes. It gives a lot of visuals and simple language to help us understand what are those intelligences and maybe why do they happen.
This is Tommy, and his parents say he's very intelligent. Wait, what does that even mean? Well, a majority of people would assume he gets very good grades in school. But even though this is a sign of intelligence, it isn't the only defining factor of what makes someone smart. IQ tests, for instance, are a common way to test intelligence, but most of these tests examine proficiency in spatial, verbal, or mathematical intelligence. American psychologist Howard Gardner thought this was strange, as there are many ways people can be intelligent. He then developed his theory of multiple intelligences, which describes 9 areas where people can be proficient. Number 1, naturalist intelligence. Think of Katniss Everdeen from The Hunger Games, Chuck Noland from Castaway, and Julie from Julie of the Wolves. With a keen eye to detail and easily noticing changes in their surroundings, people with high naturalist intelligence can be very good at surviving in the wild. They have a cunning ability to distinguish between different animals, plants, clouds, rocks, etc. In today's modern world, they are able to distinguish between different kinds of makeup, cars, smartphones, and other items. Number 2, musical intelligence. Having a high musical intelligence indicates you're very good at things to do with sounds. These can include characteristics such as rhythm, tone, and pitch. If you've got a high musical intelligence, you're good at recognizing, creating, and reproducing music. You might even have a high mathematical intelligence too, as these two things often involve similar thought processes. If you happen to play an instrument and have a high musical intelligence, you're probably quite good at playing by ear. Number 3, logical mathematical intelligence. People with a high score on logical mathematical intelligence are good at abstract symbolic thought, using letters in formulas to indicate relationships between factors, and reasoning skills such as inductive and deductive reasoning. They are good at considering hypotheses, carrying out calculations, and quantifying data. Number 4, existential intelligence. People with a high existential intelligence are good philosophical thinkers. They are good at philosophizing and thinking about questions that might not have a real, definite answer. They have a sensitivity towards the deeper questions of life and like challenging related concepts. They're not easily confused by their own feelings. Number 5, interpersonal intelligence. People with a high interpersonal intelligence are often good at communicating with others. They are good at noticing shifts in others' moods and motives, as well as taking multiple perspectives on a subject. They often score high in empathy and do well in socially orientated work, such as teaching, social work, and acting. Number 6, bodily kinesthetic intelligence. People with this type of intelligence love movement. They have high body awareness and good motor skills. Because of that, they often excel in activities that involve body movement, such as sports and dance. They learn best by doing, and are keen to figuring things out through experimentation. Number 7, linguistic intelligence. People high in linguistic intelligence are better than average at understanding subtle differences in meaning. They tend to pick up new words and languages quicker. It's a widely shared skill, often found in people that work in journalism, teaching, or even public speaking. Furthermore, people with a high linguistic intelligence tend to have a broader vocabulary than average. Children and young adults with a high linguistic intelligence tend to be drawn to language-oriented activities, such as reading, writing, word puzzles, and telling stories. Number 8, intrapersonal intelligence. People with a high intrapersonal intelligence are good at understanding their own feelings and thoughts and working them to achieve their goals. They are good at motivating themselves from the inside out without any visible or physical reward. It involves more than just understanding and planning their goals, but also a less definite appreciation of the human condition. People with a high intrapersonal intelligence are often good philosophers and psychologists. Number 9, spatial intelligence. People with a high spatial intelligence are good at things that require mental manipulations of physical perspectives. These people tend to be very skilled at map reading, jigsaw puzzles, and seeing or drawing objects and situations from a different perspective, without necessarily having seen it from that perspective. They do not easily get lost and are often good at working their way around a maze. Spatial reasoning, image manipulation, and graphic and artistic skills are often well developed in people with a high spatial intelligence. People with this skill are often good at sailing, being a pilot, sculpting, painting, or designing architectural features and spaces. Young people with good spatial intelligence are often drawn to visually stimulating activities, like drawing. So, those are the 9 types of intelligence. Which types of intelligence do you feel describe you the best? comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
And in fact, I would love for you to get into groups. Not just two groups, like the quick support. And talk about these themes. Do you agree or disagree with this theory, this idea that there are these multiple ways that we sort of integrate information and problem solve or create things? And then those are reflected in something like the 8 or 9 elements. And then, what do you think your intelligence are? Why? And finally, what do you think is the biggest practical problem with teaching the students multiple intelligences? What do you think is difficult about considering 8 or 9 different intelligences when teaching a wide variety? Okay? Absolutely.
I personally have a hard time understanding multiple.
Yeah.
My brain starts to think of them as skills.
Uh-huh.
Do you have any?
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I'm a person who kind of feels like a lot of these things are always like sort of personality tests, and I reflexively always feel a little bit like, don't put me in the box, don't tell me about myself. I don't know. You don't know. But I think if we think of it in terms of like, how do you tend to problem solve or integrate new information to achieve some sort of goal? So if that tends to be by really keying into reading the room and understanding how different people are reacting to a situation, maybe you have a high interpersonal intelligence. If you find that you are able to sort of take in new information and integrate it into the framework better when there's music involved in the equation somehow, maybe you have a high musical intelligence. If you prefer to utilize a lot of sort of reading and writing strategies around tackling sort of problems and creating new things, perhaps you have a higher linguistic intelligence. So if you can think of it in terms of sort of problem solving, creating new things, and finding the best way to address a goal or get at a goal, that's probably my best. That's okay. Okay, great. So let's get into those 2 groups and talk through these questions. Okay.
Do we want to agree with speakers to talk about using that?
I agree with you. You're on the fence. You're on the fence to the wall.
I know. Wrapping my brain around it. If I were to use these intelligences, that would probably tell me I'm more logical.
I mean, wouldn't be
You don't like that? Oh, it's like it. Oh, okay.
wouldn't be intelligence is that they don't know how many people are in different ways. Some people are more virtual, other people are more hands-on. Oh, you're making it different.
Absorb or the way they process information. That's how I was able to say yes. Intelligences.
So, 4 or 5 family members on the spectrum. So a lot of what we learn is very, very, and so a lot of these things that are coming up. It's very,
Okay.
so like interpersonal, yes, very logical, but everything else, like,
The musical.
Well,
The natural.
then by that you're really good. The other part was intelligence, because your logical and math. For example, for me, of the interpersonal, naturalistic, and visual, linguistic as well. Like you relate to all of it. Logical, not so much. Aesthetic. I love space. Math, okay, so that's the thing. So
I can never learn that.
no, I could never. I still to this point I hate math. You know what I'm saying? How much I hate it.
And you said no. When you said.
So,
You mean out there.
remember that.
There was another class I was reading about. So there was that one on 11. It's not me. But then I'm thinking, oh, at the end. And then towards the end of the lesson, okay. So that was you know, naturalist, no. Logical, no. No.
I am doing people. I'm also good solving problems. I'm good with linguistics and different nature. I'm good with logical. I guess it. Musical. I'm not good with spatial like that. Spatial, yeah, I'm all space.
I've always been like a communication snapper,
There you go.
whether it's like. It's the best of.
You do write very, very well. You definitely. Like,
Now, the problem with teaching people moving intelligence is that they're not attracted to the other intelligence. So, for example, I like the example, they say special people tend to like drawing. So that point, there's no pictures of it. Spatial people.
but then as a teacher.
That's where logical comes in.
I used to write programming for a museum, and when you write programs for general audience, you have to think about the impact for everything. So you can't like make a math problem for the general. You have to present something to that a problem solving. So like with colors or with shapes or just a problem.
Yeah.
Like it's still mathematics. And you still get that process. But it's actually quite important.
Perception.
Like when you have more people in the classroom, you find that interesting. You find it's similar to but also like who we know about that, like
I know, because even the testing, for me, it's just a better. No. I understand. This is something that yeah, no. I would wait and it compared to what we do.
So what do you think? Is there? What do you think?